welcome to today's business studies lesson. My name is Tediso Tlaka, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Today, we look into grade 12 revision, and the focus is on paper 2. And the main topic we look into is business ventures, and I'm your presenter, Tediso Tlaka. Let us start our lesson. Our learning outcome, this is what we should focus on. This is what we should master by the end of this lesson. So learning outcomes, the first one is that by the end of this unit, you should be able to know the structure of the paper to say how is your question paper going to be structured. And then you should also be in a position to know the main topics that are going to be assessed for the paper. However, keep in mind that we are only focusing on one main topic for this lesson. And then you should also then master how to do exam preparation, and I'm going to be helping you in the process of preparing for the exam. As we proceed, let's start with the first part, which is the structure of the paper. Our paper is structured into 3. We have section A, B, and C. Your section A will be allocated 30 marks, and the time you should spend there is 20 minutes trying to answer your section A. And then you will be having 2 main topics. This is your business roles and business ventures, which will be allocated 15 marks in the section A. Then you'll be having 1.1 in your section A and 1.2 together with 1.3. So you should know that each is allocated 10, 10, 10. So that's how you are going to be assessed for section A. And what is very, very important is that these are compulsory short questions, meaning everything is compulsory. Then we have section B. In section B, there's an important instruction at the beginning, which says to you, choose any 2 questions. And you should know that you have 3 questions here, and each question is allocated 40 marks, and you are expected to choose only 2. So when we say 40 times 2, then you are allocated 80 marks for section B, and the time to spend there is 70 minutes, making each question to have 35 minutes. Then in your question 2, you'll have questions that will assess business venture subtopics for 40 marks. And in question 3, you'll have now questions that will assess business roles subtopics for 40 marks. And then question 4 will be our miscellaneous total or question, which is having a total of 40 marks. With miscellaneous, we are saying the combination of both the business venture and business roles. So therefore, you're going to have 20 marks that will assess subtopics under the business venture and 20 marks that will assess subtopics under business roles. Then as we proceed, we have section C. In your section C, there's an important instruction at the beginning as well, which says choose 1 question, because you have 2 questions, but you only choose 1. This is your essay type question, whereby you are expected to write an essay, and the mark allocation there becomes 40 marks, and the time you should spend with your essay or trying to write your essay is 30 minutes. And then the questions you have is both question 5 and question 6. So this is to say question 5 will assess an essay under the subtopics of business venture, or with your business roles, you will have an essay which will assess now subtopics under the business role for 40 marks. But remember, you choose only 1. Now, we look into the main topics, which is the second part of our lesson, whereby we are telling you to say what main topics are we dealing with, and we also look into subtopics under each main topic. And remember, the focus is on business ventures. We are going to have a lesson on business roles as well, but now we are looking into business ventures, which will be assessed in question 2, 4, and 5. Now, business ventures will be assessed in paper 2 together with business role. But I said the focus is on business ventures, which will be assessed in question 2, question 4 as a miscellaneous, and question 5 as an essay. Now, these are the main topics, or these are the subtopics under your business ventures. You have management and leadership, which was dealt with in term 2. You have your investment security, which was dealt with in term 2 as well, and your investment insurance together with forms of ownership, and presentation and data response. Those are your subtopics under the main topic we call business ventures, meaning if you are choosing question 2, question 4, and question 5, this is what is going to be assessed. You should know your leadership and management. You should know your investment security together with your investment insurance and forms of ownership. And the last part will be presentation and data response. And we call this main topic business ventures and its subtopics that are outlined there. Then let's start with the first part and try to do a revision maybe on the first subtopic, which is your leadership or management and leadership. We start by looking into the leadership styles. Remember, you have 5 leadership styles. The first one is democratic together with autocratic, and you also have laissez-faire or free reign together with charismatic and transactional. What is important here is that you should know to explain the meaning of each leadership style, because you will then be in a position to determine situations where each leadership style can be used. So the examiner can ask you to say, explain in which situation can this leadership style be applied, because a leader will not use one leadership style, but the leader will use a leadership style based on the situation that they are faced with. Hence, they can use democratic when they want to get new ideas from the employees. They can use autocratic in a crisis situation. They can use transactional to try and motivate employees by offering reward and punishing those who fail to do the work accurately. They can also use charismatic to encourage and motivate the employees, because here the leader is using charm. And then you have laissez-faire and free reign, which can be used when the business is having experts or employees who have more knowledge or who are expertise in the field. You can use the laissez-faire as a leader. So it is important that you know situations where each leadership style can be applied, that can be examined, and you should also be in a position to do what? To know the impact of each leadership style, to say what are the advantages and disadvantages of using each leadership style. Then let us look into situations where each leadership style can be applied together with the meaning of each leadership style, so that we are in a better position to deal with this aspect. So the first leadership style to be considered there would be autocratic leadership style. What does it mean? An autocratic leader does not allow employees to take decisions. That's what it means. So, meaning a leader who's using autocratic is a leader that will not allow the followers to make decisions in the business. The leader is the only one that is going to make the decisions. So now, in application, when we are talking about application, we say, when can the leader use this leadership style? The leader can use this leadership style in a crisis situation. For example, in a case of an unforeseen challenge, when there is no time to be thinking about the solution, the only person to be making the decision that time is a leader. So we use what? Autocratic leadership style, so that they could save time and deal with the crisis fast. And again, we use autocratic leadership style when all information is available to solve the problem. So those are two situations. In a crisis, a leader can use autocratic. When information is available to make all decisions, the leader can use autocratic. But let us look into the second leadership style. This is your democratic leadership style. What does it do now? What does this leader do, and how do they lead the employees? The leader would allow employees to make decisions. So with democratic, the leader allows employees to make decisions, but with autocratic does not allow. So an autocratic leader will not allow, but a democratic leader will allow employees to make decisions or to be part of the decision making. Let's be clear, it is about being part of the decision making. Hence, application to say now, when will the leader use this leadership style? When group members are skilled and are eager to share their ideas. That's number one. When employees are skilled, you use democratic because they are eager to share their ideas. Then, when can the leader use this leadership style again? When the leader does not have all the information needed to make a decision, and employees have valuable information to contribute. Remember, we said you use it when the employees or group members are skilled. So even with this regard of the second point, it says when the leader does not have all the information needed to make a decision, and employees have valuable information to contribute so that they become part of the decision making. So it means the employees must be skilled and they must be having knowledge for them to be part of the decision making. Hence, a democratic leader should ensure that employees are skilled and they are eager to share their ideas before they can be part of the decision making. Then we have laissez-faire or free rein. When we look into laissez-faire and free rein, we are saying now the leader will allow employees to make decisions on their own work method, on how they're going to complete the task and on how they're going to do the work to be successful in the business. So the leader here does not prescribe to employees on how to complete their tasks and activities within the business or their duties and responsibilities. When would the leader use this leadership style, which we call the laissez-faire? When employees are experts and can take responsibility for their action, you use laissez-faire. And again, you can use laissez-faire to give employees power to make their own decisions and complete the work tasks and complete using whatever method with the freedom. When the leader is very busy, and delegation of the task will increase productivity. So when the leader is very busy, the leader can give the employees the power to decide on their work method, because the leader is very busy and delegation of the task will increase productivity. So that is when you use laissez-faire. Charismatic leader. A charismatic leader is the leader that uses charm to influence his team to achieve the business goals. Let's be clear, we're not talking about charm of dressing nice here. We're not talking about charm of how the leader looks, but the focus is on the ability of the leader to do certain activities. We are talking about the skills, to say, since the leader has skills, the leader will use the skills to then charm the employees to use the same skills so that the business can achieve its goals. Hence, we say you use this leadership style when the leader wants to sell a vision and achieve excellent results. Again, it will be used when the leader wants to inspire hard work amongst employees. Let us move to the other one, which is now the transactional leadership style. The transactional leadership style will be used by the leader when now these situations occur. But before that, we need to know, to say, what does it mean? This is a leadership style that allows the leader to use a system of reward and punishment to motivate employees. That's number one. So the leader will use here a system of reward and punishment to motivate employees to achieve the business goals. When do you use this leadership style? You use this leadership when deadlines have to be met on short notice or under a lot of pressure. So when there's a task or an activity that has to be submitted in short notice, the leader would say whoever's going to submit first will be rewarded. Maybe they'll get a voucher for 500, maybe they'll get a holiday trip or a flight ticket to wherever they want to go. Again, it can be used when workers have low morale. If employees have low morale and they are demotivated, this leadership style can be used so that the reward will try to improve the morale of the employees. Now let us look into typical examination questions or possible examination questions. We have Tateo's Computer Software, TCS. Tateo's Computer Software specializes in developing new computer softwares for various computer programs. Cindy, the production manager, offers rewards to employees who meet set targets. And Tom, the marketing manager, uses charm to influence his team to work hard. Lebo, the administration manager, gives a task without instruction on how to do it. Now, 2.1.1 requires of you to identify the leadership styles used by Cindy, Tom, Lebo. Motivate as well your answer by quoting from the scenario above. So you're going to look into the scenario, check these three individuals and check which leadership styles are they applying in their different departments. And then 2.1.2 will require of you to evaluate the impact of one of the leadership styles identified above for 6 marks. So that is how you should apply it now. Let us look now into the solutions. Cindy in this regard is using transactional because the production manager, which is Cindy, offers rewards to motivate employees who meet set targets. What is very, very important here is that with the motivation, you need to quote fully. You need to quote fully, because when we are saying quote from the scenario above, this is the scenario above. And as we can check here, they're saying Cindy, the production manager, uses what? Offers rewards to motivate employees who have met the set what? Targets. So let's be clear, the quotation should be done in full so that you don't lose your marks. As you can see here, the production manager offers rewards to motivate employees who have met the set what? Target. So that is 1 mark and 2 marks. And it is transactional because transactional is a leadership style that uses a system of reward and punishment to motivate employees. And then Tom will then be using charismatic because the marketing manager, that's you now motivating, uses what? Charm to influence his team to work hard. So that is another one, which is 1 mark for the motivation and 2 marks for identifying the correct leadership style. Then license fair or free reign. Then when you look into that, this is free reign. Why? Because Lebu, the administration manager, gives a task without an instruction on how to do it or how to complete that task. Why? Because Lebu is aware that he's dealing with or is working with employees who are experts. That's why he gives them the work without telling them on how to complete it, because they are experts and they can take responsibility. Let us now look into the impact of each leadership style that was identified, because question 2.1.2 is requiring of you to evaluate the impact of one of the leadership style identified above for 6 marks. Let us go then and look into the first, which is the transactional. What are the positives? The positives are the idea that the leader will then be in a position to linking what? Now, linking rewards to targets in order to encourage workers to work effectively or efficiently. So this will have advantages. And then another one is that incentives offered to employees who exceed targets will increase the productivity levels of workers. So the incentives, again, are the main motivation here and will encourage the culture of doing very well for each and everyone in the business. But when you look into the negatives, employees may feel demoralized if they are punished for not meeting the what? Target. So that is the disadvantages. Some of the employees will be working very hard, but they might be slow by nature, so which can be then a demotivating factor over there. And then another negative is that the leader may need to monitor the performance of employees to ensure that targets are met. So that's how then you go about the negative. Let us look into charismatic leadership style. What are the positives there? We said this is a leader that uses charm. So the charm is their skills, their ability to communicate, their ability to sell the vision, their ability to make everyone feel that they can do it and they can achieve it. So this leader then will bring these positives, or this leadership style will bring these positives. A leader will communicate the vision or goals of the organization in a concise and a clear manner. So everyone will understand what is to be achieved. That will inspire confidence amongst what? Employees, because they will want to achieve, since they are motivated by this personality of this leader who's very great and has all the skills. And then employees are inspired by the energy or passion of the charismatic leader. So that's 1-1. So employees will be inspired by the energy and passion of the charismatic leader. What are the negatives, however? A leader may promote his own personal interest in this regard instead of leading for the benefits of the organization, because these are leaders who have more influence, and since they have more influence, they can then focus on their own interest and own benefit rather than leading for the organization, because they will then know that they have greater power to influence others. Then another negative is that employees rely on the leader to improve their morale and motivational levels, which is a problem because should the leader not be there, it means it will be difficult for these employees to be motivated. Then when you look into laissez-faire, it is about giving a task without informing employees on how to complete the task. Hence, it says employees are trusted and given the responsibility of making decisions in the areas of their expertise. So that's 2 marks in that way because they are trusted. They are not being told how to do the work because they know, and this is because their expertise in their areas of work. Then another positive is that employees do not need to consult the leader when making decisions that may benefit the organization. Then what are the negatives? The negatives are the idea that the uncertainty regarding the clear decision making could influence the morale of the employees negatively. Then another one is that employees could be hesitant to take decisive actions, which could affect their work performance. So that can be the disadvantage over there because now some employees will be given power to make decisions and lead other employees. And in the absence of the leader, so it means employees will be hesitant to take decisions and decisive actions, which could affect the work performance of those employees because they will not know as much as they are given the task to say your expertise, but some guideline is needed on how to be done or what color to be used. Because we are talking about, maybe let's talk about the fashion world, because most people who are in fashion, they are experts. So what does it mean if we are saying laissez-faire? Maybe the company will say create any dress of your choice. So the company didn't specify whether should it be a short dress, should it be a long dress, so it becomes an issue over there. Then let us look into other possible exam questions. 2.1 is a direct question that says discuss the situational leadership theory, and then 2.2 can say explain the transformational leadership theory for 6 marks. These are direct questions and these are linking to the what now? They are linking to the theories of leadership. So you should know. Hence here there's an advice to say note there is no impact of leadership theories, meaning there won't be a question that requires of you to talk about positives and negatives around the 3 theories, and then situations in which they can be applied in the workplace. So it says there is no impact on leadership theories and situations in which you should apply these leadership theories. You just have to know how to explain maybe 4 points for each of the theories of leadership. Now let us discuss now the situational leadership theory. We should know that with the situational leadership theory, leaders is the theory that teaches a leader about understanding their situation and also about changing their leadership styles. To say you cannot use one leadership style. You use a leadership style based on the situation. You choose a leadership style based on a situation. Hence, it says here leaders are required to manage employees under different conditions. Under different conditions and different character traits or leadership styles are required to deal with each situation within the workplace. Because when we say character traits, we are saying the character traits of each leadership styles will be needed to manage these employees under different conditions or situations that might be occurring. Hence, it further says a different leadership style would be adopted by the leader based on the prevailing circumstances at a particular time. So when we are saying prevailing, we are saying based on the situation that is occurring. So different leadership styles are needed based on the situation that is occurring. In a crisis, a different leadership style will have to be used. In a situation whereby employees are demotivated, the leader would have to change and now go to another leadership style based on the situation that is occurring. And the situation is developed or it occurs based on the employees. The employees are the ones who are going to create the situation. Now, as we proceed, effective leaders may adopt the leadership style that will ensure that goals of the organization are achieved. Furthermore, the relationship between the leader and the employee is based on values of trust, integrity, and respect, which will help which will help to do what now? It will help to achieve the understanding of different leadership styles being used. Because as the employee and the leader respect one another and trust one another, then they will then understand to say, we are making this decision, or the leader today is autocratic because the situation requires the leader to be autocratic. The leader today is democratic because the situation allows, or it needs democratic situation to be applied. So hence we say now the relationship between the leader and the employees are based on the values of trust, integrity, and respect. And the switching of the different leadership style will then make it easier because of the values that we spoke to here, which is respect, integrity, and trust. Then as we proceed transformational, this is a theory that will be used when we are talking about change in the organization. So when we look into this theory would be adopted by a leader during a period in which the organization is experiencing radical change. So when the business wants to change, the leader will have to take this theory, use this theory as the core theory to guide their behavior and the leadership style that is applicable. Hence, we say the leader may use his communication skills, passion, or interactions with employees to convince employees to accept changes that are planned in the organization. And then as we further move here, we say now, when you look into the issue of communication skills, passion, and interaction, it means we are talking to a particular leadership style here, which will then help to convince the employees. And that leadership style can be what? Charismatic, for instance. During charismatic, a leader uses their skills and the personality to charm the employees so that they can accept the change as well. So it can be used in line with that leadership style. So the passion or what now, vision or personality of the leader inspires followers to change their expectations, perceptions, motivation to work towards what? To a common goal. And then strategic thinking leaders will develop a long-term vision for the organization and sell it to the subordinates so that they buy in and push in the work. Then we look into now the second subtopic here, which is your investment securities. When you look into your investment securities, you should know the functions of JSE, investment decision factors, investment opportunities and risk, together with forms of investment and types of shares, together with types of preference shares. Then look into simple and compound interest on how to calculate it. This is one subtopic that has calculations, so you should be ready and bring your calculator as you are going to write your paper 2. Then let us look into the first aspect. The first aspect there is to understand the two, because these two can cause a confusion. We have forms of investment this side, and we also have investment opportunities this side. So forms of investment will be assessed using the what now? The impact, to say evaluate the impact. And when we say evaluate the impact, we are looking into the what now? We are looking into the positives and negatives. But when we look into opportunities, investment opportunities and their risk, what is important here is that you should know the meaning of each investment opportunity and know the risks. So we have stock first, managed portfolio, 32 days notice account, debenture, business venture, and life insurance. What is important here is to know one meaning and one risk around each investment opportunity. Let us also proceed to say we have forms of investment. This includes the RSA retail savings bond, unit trust, shares, together with your fixed deposit. Then as we proceed now, let us look into a possible exam question around the forms of investment. 2.3 requires of you to read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. The scenario says to you, Lebu inherited 50,000 from her late parents. And he chose now. Did he choose? He chose an investment where he can earn interest twice a year. Also chose another investment where it will be easy to cash in when the investor needs money. Now 2.3.1 says, identify two forms of investment chosen by letter and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. And then 2.3.2, evaluate the impact of the investment investments, forms of investments identified in question 3.1 for 6 marks. Now, the two answers here. The two answers are straight to the point. Is RSA retail savings bond, because it will allow him to receive what now? To receive interest twice a year. Receiving interest twice a year. The other one is your unit trust, because this is the only investment form where it will be easy to cash in when the investor needs money. So when the investor wants to withdraw, it becomes very easy for a unit trust. So motivation 1-1. And then let us look into the impact now. Retail or RSA retail savings bond. What are the positives? The positives of investing in this form of investment is that you have guaranteed returns, as interest is fixed for the whole investment period. Then another one is that interest rates are market related and attract more investors. And then interest can be received twice a year. So this one we will not mark, and we will consider it to be R because it was from the scenario. And there will be no charges, costs, or commissions payable on this type of investment. Then we look into the negative. A minimum of 1,000 must be invested, which may be difficult for small investors to accumulate. Then retail bonds are not freely transferable amongst what? Investors, meaning you cannot give your investor to another person or another investor. Investors need to have a South African identification, which may discourage foreign investors. And then penalties are charged for early withdrawals, especially if the savings is less than 12 months, meaning you should wait for the savings bond to last 12 months with the investment, and then after that, after 12 months, you can withdraw. But should you withdraw before the 12 months, then you will be paying penalties, and which will mean your investment amount will be reduced in value. Then, unit trust. What are the positives there? The positives are unit trust is managed by a fund manager who buys shares on the stock exchange. Because with unit trust, we are saying maybe 5 investors come in, and then as 5 investors, they contribute money and put it under a unit trust fund. And then the trust fund will be managed by a fund manager who will buy shares on the stock exchange. So basically, it's a process of bringing money together so that it can be invested in different forms of or different types of investments. And then another advantage is that it is easy to cash in when the investor needs money. So this we consider to be an R because we saw it from the scenario. So why am I doing this? I'm showing you that if you have quoted something as motivation from the scenario, do not write about it in the question that follows, because already you have obtained marks from the scenario. And then we look into another positive is that a small amount can be invested per month. So that is another advantage. But what are the disadvantages? Share prices may fluctuate. So this is a disadvantage. Why? Because the fund manager buys shares on the stock exchange or JSE. So the fluctuations will affect the investors. It's not good for people who want to invest for a short period, and it's also not good for people who want to avoid risks. So what is important here is that you are having this sentence, not good for people, not good for people. But what is important is that you should know that it is not good for people who want to invest for a short period, and it's not good for people who want to avoid risks. Then we proceed and look into the other types of questions. Here we are looking into identifying the types of preference shares represented by each statement below. 2.4.1 says to you now, shareholders are entitled to share in any surplus profits. And then 2.4.2 says to you now, shareholders are compensated for past dividends that were not paid out when profits were low to declare what? Dividends. And then 2.4.3 says shares are sold to shareholders at an option of being bought back on certain conditions. So these are the 3 types of preference shares. Remember, you have 4 main types of preference shares. It would be participating, cumulative, redeemable, and convertible. Then what do? You just add non-participating, non-cumulative, non-convertible, and non-redeemable. Then you are done. You are in a position to identify. So meaning you have 8 types of preference shares, and you are expected to choose only 3. So you start by identifying the main ones to say you have participating, cumulative, convertible, and redeemable. Then you check here to say which one is participating and which one is none. You also check which one is cumulative and which one is none. And you need to know your keywords very well. Because when we are talking about 2.4.1, for instance, it says to you, shareholders are entitled to share in any what? Surplus profit. So this will make the answer to be what? Participating preference share. Why? Because with participating, the shareholders here are allowed to share in extra profit that the business or the company has made, should company profits be too big. And then when we say shareholders are compensated for past dividends, we look into cumulative now to say what is cumulative. Cumulative is when they are saying shareholders were not paid for the last 3 years, and then in the fourth year the company does very well. It means then the cumulative shareholder will have to be paid the past dividends that were not paid out there, or the past profits that were not paid up. So this would then be cumulative. Cumulative preference share. Then we also have what? Shares are sold to shareholders at an option of being bought back on certain conditions. So this would be we call redeemable. This is redeemable preference shares. So you get 2, 2, and 2 for that. Then as we proceed, these are the solutions. You have your participating, cumulative, and what? Redeemable preference shares. Then, as we proceed now, we look into investment insurance. Under investment insurance, you should know the following: the meaning of non-compulsory insurance, the differences between insurance and assurance. You should further know how to define the following insurance concepts: over insurance, under insurance together with average clause, then reinstatement together with excess. Then we also have the principles of insurance. Remember, you have 4: the principle of security, the principle of indemnity, and the principle of utmost good faith together with the principle of insurable interest. So these are your principles of insurance. This is your principle of indemnity, principle of security, utmost good faith, and insurable interest. Then you also have types of compulsory insurance. This will include now road accident fund, unemployment insurance fund, and the compensation for occupational injuries and disease act. Then let us look into the critical parts here when we look into the insurance and the insurance investment security, to say we have the principles. Do not confuse principles with the concepts of insurance. Principles, we only have 4 principles, but with concepts, we have 5 concepts. So here we are saying principles will determine and will be in line with the contractual agreement when you are signing in for an insurance. So the principle of indemnity will talk about being compensated for short-term assets, and then principles of security will then talk to what now? Being compensated for what now? Any insurance that is taken on a human being, such as life insurance and so forth, and it creates assurance, the financial security. Hence, we call it the principle of security. Utmost good faith talks about being honest before you enter into an insurance contract, but insurable interest talks about proving what you stand to lose financially should the asset you are insuring be lost or be ceased to exist. But when you look into over insurance, under insurance, average loss, reinstatement, and excess, these are applicable to how situations would occur in an insurance. Hence, we say over insurance is when the business will be insured for more than the actual market value. And then when you look into under insurance, this has to do with the idea that an asset will be insured for less than its actual market value. And then average loss would be applied when goods are under insured, to say the insurance company will have to calculate. And then we also have reinstatement, which has to do with now over insurance, to say when you are over insured, the business or the insurance or the insurer as the company will then reinstate you, which is then talking to returning you to the same financial position before the occurrence of the loss. Then we also have excess. Excess has to do with the process of claiming, to say before you claim, there's a certain amount that you have to pay so that your claim can be processed. And this will help the insurance company to avoid people who want to do fraud and know that before you can claim, you have to pay something. So it helps the business to cap the fraud and any corruption that may be around claiming for insurance. Let us look into possible exam questions now. We are having 2.5, which says read below the scenario. Read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. The scenario is about top traders who bought stock worth 400,000 but insured it for 300,000. Then a fire. What is important when we are dealing with numbers here is that we need to underline the values. To say here they are saying top trader bought stock worth 400,000. So when we are saying the stock is worth 400,000, what are we talking about? Let's be clear. Stock, this is the market value. This is the market value. Then, but insured it for 300,000. So the insurance amount is 300,000. Underline that part. And then a fire in the warehouse destroyed stock to the value of 60,000. So there was a damage there. So we need to note this to say this is a damage. Then 2.5.1 says, name the insurance loss that is applicable to the scenario above for 2 marks. And then 2.5.2 says, calculate the amount that top trader will receive as compensation from the insurer. Show all calculations for 4 marks. Then there's only one clause here. And which situation is occurring here? 400,000 is the market value. The insurance amount is 300,000. So it means the insurance amount is less than the what? The stock value or the market value. So the clause that would be applicable is average clause. The answer here is supposed to be average clause. Will be activated, will be applicable. Why? Because this is how then the insurance company would deal with a client who's underinsured. And as we can see here, we cannot we can see it's clear that 400,000, which is the value of stock, is less than 300,000. 300,000 is less, which is the amount of insurance, meaning the insured company is aware that top trader has a stock that is 400,000 but is insured for 300,000, which will then mean top trader is underinsured. So which clause does the company apply as the insurance company? The insurance company would apply a clause we call the average clause, because they need to calculate the average in proportion to the what now, to how much the top trader as a company will receive. So the answer is supposed to be average clause. Then we look into 2.5.2, which says calculate the amount that top trader will receive as compensation from the insurer and show all the calculations for 4 marks. So what is important here is to start by knowing your formula. Your formula is insured amount over market value multiplied by then damages multiplied by damages. So we say amount insured amount. How much is the insured amount? Insured it for 300,000. So we're gonna say 300,000 over the market value, which is 400,000 multiplied by 60,000. And remember that we are taking this 60 from the scenario and this 400,000 from the scenario, which will then mean the answer is multiply by 60. The answer is supposed to be 45,000. So as you can see, the total damage is 60,000, but the company top trader will only receive how much? 45,000. Now there's a shortfall here. Why? Because top trader was under insured. Was insured for 300,000 instead of being insured for 400,000, which is the total value of stock. Hence now top trader is only receiving 45,000. Then as we proceed, we look into direct questions. The following can be direct questions whereby you are demanded to outline the importance of insurance for the business, or it can be rephrased as advantages of insurance for the business, or differentiating between over and under insurance, or distinguishing between insurance and assurance. And also 2.4 you can say discuss any two principles of insurance. These are direct questions, and it doesn't mean they cannot be assessed as your scenario as well. Then when we look into this, outline the importance, we look into saying the importance of insurance is that it transfers the risk from the insured to the insurance company. The insured is the business, so it means it transfers the risk or the cost of having that asset from the owner to the insurance company. Then the transfer of risk is subjected to terms and conditions of the insurance contract, which will then be in line with the principles of insurance. And then it protects the business against dishonest employees, and it also protects the business against losses due to the death of a debtor. Then we move to another direct question. Then when we move to that, we then look into differentiating between over and under insurance. Over insurance, what do we mean by that? With over insurance, you should know that we are talking about what? Over insurance, we are talking about the idea that now property or assets are insured for more than their actual value. But under insurance, property or assets are insured for their full, or they are not. Very clear. Property or assets, they are not insured for their full market value, but with over insurance, they are insured for more than their value. And then when we further look into the over insurance, the insurer can choose to reinstate the insured. But with under insurance, the insurer will implement average loss, which is the calculation we showed in the previous activity, to determine the amount that will be paid. Then over insurance, businesses will not receive a payout larger than the value of the loss at market value, but under insurance, businesses will only be paid out for the amount of goods or assets that are insured for. So that is how it works. So businesses will only paid out for the amount of goods or assets they are insured for. If they are insured under, they will receive money, but it will be less than the actual value of the damage. So that's how we deal with under insurance. And then as we move, we look into distinguishing between what? Insurance and assurance. So when you look into the differences there, insurance is based on the principle of indemnity, whereas assurance is based on the principle of security or certainty. That's how you start. Then the insurance it covers a specified event that may occur, but assurance specifies a specified event is certain, but the time of the event is not. No. Hence, we say this is assurance. It offers the principle of security. Then insurance is now applicable to short-term insurance, but assurance is applicable to long-term insurance. So that's how you distinguish between the two. Then discussing the principles of insurance. The first principle is the principle of indemnity, which then gives you an idea that it is usually applicable to short-term insurance, as the insured is compensated for specified harm or proven harm or losses. Then that's one. Then you look into the principle of security. When you look into the principle of security, it then says it applies to long-term insurance, where the insurer undertakes to pay out an agreed amount in an event of loss of life. So this is the security part, to say there is an agreed upon amount of money that is paid upon an event of loss of life or loss of employment. Then utmost good faith is about being honest as you enter the insurance contract. Hence, it says now the insured has to be honest in supplying details when entering an insurance contract. Then that's how you deal with that. And then insurable interest. The insured here, we are talking about the insured must prove that he or she will suffer a financial loss if the insured object is damaged. If the insured object is damaged. Then we also have another type of questions whereby you're identifying now from the statements. So it says identify the type of compulsory insurance applicable in each statement below. 2.1, Natalie broke her leg when her car collided with another car and she is demanding compensation for 2 months. And then another one is Pete lost his job due to what now? Retrenchment. Lost his job due to retrenchment and is claiming compensation from the Department of Labor. And then Jamie Ltd ensures that the workplace is safe to avoid unnecessary accidents. Identify the compulsory insurance that is applicable there. So when you look into each there, you must be aware that when we are talking about Natalie breaking her leg because a car collided, we are talking about what? Road accident fund. Road accident fund. Then Pete lost his job due to retrenchment. So this is unemployment insurance fund. Why? Because we're talking about losing a job here. And this is unemployment. When you lose a job, you become unemployed. And then LTD ensures that the workplace is safe to avoid unnecessary accidents. So this is what now? COEDA. This should be COEDA because now it safeguards the employees in the workplace. So this is road accident fund, this is unemployment insurance fund, and compensation for occupational injuries and disease. Then as we proceed, then we look into forms of ownership. What is key there is for you to understand the criteria of forms of ownership that will help you determine the success or failure factors for each form of ownership. So it's important to know tax implication to say when we talk about tax implications deal with the requirements of each form of ownership, determining the impact of taxation on the success and failure of each form of ownership. Then management, we talk about the ownership in terms of management functions to say who will manage the business and how will it affect the success and failure of each form of ownership. Capital refers to the ability to obtain capital to say which form of ownership would allow the owner to get capital and bigger capital for that matter, which will contribute to the success and failure. And then division of profit refers to how profit is divided between owners, shareholders, or investors of a particular form of business or form of ownership. Then legislation and legal requirements, we are talking about the cost, for instance, of establishing or starting a business and how it will impact on the success or failure of that form of ownership. And also we are looking into the establishment cost and the time before the business can legally do the operations. Then possible exam question there, we have a scenario, Khadija Printers, Pty Ltd. So when you look into Khadija Printers Limited, it needs a large amounts of capital for expansion, and their management decides to convert the company into another company so that they would be able to sell shares to the public on JSE. Now the question is, identify the form of ownership that Khadija Printers Pty Ltd wants to be converted into. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So here they're saying Khadija Pty Ltd needs large amount of capital for expansion. They want to grow, and this is Pty Ltd, and the name of the company that ends with Pty Ltd, we call it a private what? Company. So their management decided to convert to another type of company so that they would be able to sell shares to the public on the JSE. So identify their company that they want to be converted into. This is the company that allows them to sell shares to the public. So the answer here is supposed to be public company. Because with public company there, then Khadija Pty will then be allowed to sell what shares to the general public, meaning the community members. So that would allow for growth of the company. Then explain how division of profits and taxation can contribute to the success of this form of ownership. So when you look into that, the answer is what? Public, and the motivation is so that they would be able to sell shares to the public on JSE, and then you get your 3 marks. Then we move to the solution again, division of profit. How will profits be divided? And how will this contribute to the success? That high profits and good returns to shareholders indicate the success of a company, which will increase the value of shares. That's correct. But the failure that shareholders may sell their shares when dividends are low, resulting in a drop in the share price. So with the success, we are saying if the share price is 10 Rand and the company is doing very well and getting high profits, the share price can move from being 10 Rand for each share to being 100 Rand. But should there be a failure in the company and the company does not pay dividends or dividends are low, what happens is that the 100 Rand can move from being 100 to being 10 Rand again. So it depends with the company performance. When the company profits are high, the share price can move from 10 Rand to 100 Rand. But when the company profits are low and dividends are low, then the share price can move from being 100 to 10 Rand. So that will result in a drop in the share. And some shareholders will sell their shares because the division of profit is not good. The return on investment is not good. Then as we proceed, taxation. When we look into taxation there, the company can what now? Obtain tax rebates if they are involved in CSI projects. This will help to reduce the tax, to say the cost of tax will be less due to contributing to CSI projects. But what is a failure? The shareholders and the company will be taxed. Hence, we say this is subjection to double taxation. For example, shareholders pay secondary tax. This can have a negative impact in the company that is already financially struggling. Then we look into presentation and data response. This is the last part. We will be looking to factors to be considered before, when preparing, and factors to be considered while presenting. This is during the presentation, and also you need to know factors to master around providing feedback in a non-aggressive manner or in a professional manner. Then presentation factor that you should also know is how to improve the presentation for the future and maybe the impact of visual aids. Those are always important when you look into the presentation. Now, we will be looking into 3 factors at a go. For instance, when preparing, the presenter should have a clear purpose and the main points of the presentation. However, while presenting, then they have to establish credibility by introducing themselves at the start of the presentation. And they also say, show the most important information first. So this important information will be the main points, points. And then when we look into another point, it says prepare a rough draft of the presentation with introduction, body, and conclusion. Hence, it's important to say in the introduction, then they will talk about establishing credibility. Then be fully conversant with the content or objectives of the presentation. And hence, again, here, when you look into that, being fully conversant with the content of the presentation so that you present very well. So this would happen before. This would happen before the presentation. Then, as we look into while presenting, make the purpose of the presentation clear at the start of the presentation. Hence, when you are preparing, you had to be clear around the purpose. Hence, we say make the purpose clear. Purpose. And then rehearse in order to what now? To show confidence. Hence, that would help the presenter to maintain eye contact with the audience during the presentation, and consider the time frame for the presentation. And then here it says involve the audience with a variety of what? Methods. Then when we look into providing feedback in a non-aggressive manner, be polite when responding to questions. Ensure that each question is understood before responding, and then be honest when responding to questions and keep answers short and to the point. Those are your presenting factors. Let us look into a typical exam question. We have a scenario here which will require you to read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. Wali's presentation. Wali is a financial manager and presented a financial report during the annual general meeting. He considered the time frame for her presentation, and then he also rehearsed to ensure confidence in the presentation. Wali maintained eye contact with the audience, and he also used appropriate gestures. Then 2.1.1 says, quote from the scenario above 2 factors that Wali considered when preparing for a presentation and while presenting. So this is for 4 marks. Then use this table below as a guide. So the solutions there is that when you look into the following, considering time frame for a presentation, this is when preparing. He also rehearsed to ensure confidence. So this was done when he was preparing. But while he was maintaining eye contact, this was during the presentation. And when he also used appropriate gestures, this was during the presentation. Hence we say when you look into the solution, you consider the time frame for her presentation. This was during the preparation, and he also rehearsed to ensure confidence. This was also during the preparation. But when you look into Wali being what he had to consider when presenting, Wali maintained eye contact with the audience while presenting, and then he also used appropriate gestures while presenting. So that's how you go about that. Then we have another possible exam question whereby you are required now to identify the visual aid from the scenario. Now we have Thokoza Family Fitness, TFF. The management of Thokoza Family Fitness requested Mr. Chabalala to present business financial statements to various stakeholders. He distributed the printed material of his presentation at the start of the presentation. Then 2.1.1 says, identify the visual aid applicable in the scenario above and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. And then 2.1.3, discuss the impact of the visual aid identified in question 2.1.1 for 6 marks. And then 2.2 says, advise the marketing manager on the impact of using PowerPoint during the presentation for 6 marks. So when we are looking into this scenario, which visual aid is applicable there? Mr. Chabalala was asked to present the business financial statements to various stakeholders. We don't have an answer there. But we have an answer immediately. They say he distributed printed material of his presentation at the start. So printed material would then be considered to be handouts. Handouts. So the visual aid that is applicable is handouts. Let's check if I'm correct from the solution. Handouts, and 1 mark for the motivation. Remember, quote as it is. He distributed. Printed material of his presentation at the start, of his presentation. Quote it in full and get all your marks. Then let's look into the positives now of what? The negative, discussing the impact of the visual aid identified, which was the handout. Meaningful handouts can be handed out at the start of the presentation to attract attention. We won't give this one a mark because it's a repetition. We saw it from the scenario. Scenario has this statement, and hard copies of the slide presentation can be distributed at the end of the presentation as a key reminder of the key facts of the presentation. But what is a negative? The negative is that handouts cannot be combined with audio material, so it only focuses on the visual aspects of the support material. And then handing out material at the start of the presentation may distract or make the audience lose attention. Then we look into the last question, which is advise the marketing manager on the impact of using PowerPoint during the presentation. It is easy to combine with sound and video clips, and simple or less clustered slides may capture the interest of the audience. Then we also look into unprofessional handling of the PowerPoint presentation material can render it ineffective, and it may lead to irritation or may result in the audience losing interest, and then less effective to people who are visually impaired. So as we proceed, okay, this is the same thing, the summary of our lesson. This is the summary. We looked into management and leadership, term 2, investment security, investment insurance, forms of ownership, together with presentation and data response. So this was our lesson, and we addressed the aspects of business venture and how they can be assessed. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Keep well. Goodbye.